Hey man, this is Chris of PhoneCats. We're doing the last magic deck. I'm kind of sad. It's Talrand's Crosswind deck where you're playing all these flying creatures and trying to control the board, but you can't because this deck is trash. I don't like it. But check out PhoneCats.com. Look, you can buy an iPhone 4 for $250, a BlackBerry for $250, or a Samsung GS2 for $360. I don't know if that's a good deal. Okay, here we go. Mana Leak. We'll start off with a little bit of control. These are some of the cards that are in my deck at first, and then it's going to be stuff that I'm not playing with right now. Mana Leak is good. I mean, this deck is so slow, so slow. If you're playing goblins or soldiers, you're pretty much dead, but Mana Leak gives you some control. I mean, in the early first couple turns, no one can pay the extra 3. Kraken Hatchling is so weird and lame. It's 1 mana for a 0/4 wall. And I don't know, people are just going to kill it fast or pacify it or take it out of the picture really quick. Or you can use it to block 1 damage a turn. It's so annoying. I hate playing every deck when I'm playing this deck. Sleight of Hand's 1 mana. It's a sorcery, so you have to play it on your turn. You can't even do it at the end of your opponent's turn. And you look at the top 2 cards of your library, grab 1 and put 1 on the bottom. I'm usually doing it just rooting for lands, trying to grab another island, because, I don't know, I'm just always shy on lands. Or I mulligan at all my hands that have like excessive amounts of land. Azure Mage, 2 mana for a 2/1, solid. And then you can pay 4 to draw a card. Even more solid. I mean, it's like a Jam Day Tomb without a tap and you get a 2/1 creature. Most people are gonna kill it quick and get it out of the way for their creatures to attack you, but I mean, in theory it would be a cool card. Disperse, you can bounce 1 card back to their hand. I wish you could do a land just for a turn 2 slowdown, but you can't. You know, wait till their attack phase. When they're attacking with something big, bounce it back to their hand. Then they have to recast it next turn, and it has summoning sickness, so it can slow them down a little bit. Look at Fogbank. I like that old art. 2 mana. It's a 0/2 flying wall, and you prevent all combat damage that it would take. So the Goblin deck's gonna shock you. Soldier deck will deal with it. They'll just like exile it somehow or get it out of the way. But cool card in theory. The green deck can't handle it at all. I mean, one of them can make like his creature fight yours, but that's still combat damage. Here's the one in the deck, Talrand Sky Summoner. 4 mana for a 2/2, so it's gonna get shocked or last kissed or something that just takes 2 damage. But whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you can put a 2/2 Drake into play. It's cool. I wish it lasted longer. I wish it worked out and it didn't get burned. Cancel counter target spell. It's like your counter spell except for 3 mana. I really don't know why the other blue deck gets counter spells and this one gets cancels, but I don't know. I'm sure they know what they're doing and this was like the right pace for the deck. It might be because there's not a whole lot of turn 3 casts. Rite of Replication. This card's kind of sick. 4 mana, put a token of target creature that's on the battlefield into play. If you kick it, you put 5 of them. You can someone Rite of Replicationed. I'll get to it later. Maybe I won't. But I died in an embarrassing way with that crazy combo. Talrand's Invocation. 4 mana, you put 2/2 Drakes into play. It's like the backbone of the whole deck, or it's like the only way to win, it feels like sometimes when I'm playing. Oh, here's the 1 card that's efficient in this deck. Tidings is another sorcery, so you're doing stuff on your turn and then just getting smashed on theirs. 5th turn, I'm gonna pay 5 and draw 4 cards. Okay, go. You still have creatures and stuff? Oh, I'm dead? That's fine. Sense of Lost Truth, I like this. 5 mana for a 3/5 flyer. And I just need something that's 3/5 and flying to slow the momentum at this stage of the game. When it comes into play, you draw 3 cards, and then you have to discard them unless it was kicked. It only costs 2 extra to kick, and then you get to keep the 3 cards, but I normally just play it and draw 3, and then drop 3 lands if I already have 5 out, or I don't know. Bribery's okay. You search your opponent's library for a creature card and put it into play under your control. Oh, that's better than it seemed initially. Okay, so 5 mana, go grab their biggest monster and throw it into play. Oh, that's pro. I need to put that in. Or maybe I'm only playing with 1 of those. Future Sight. This card's gross. 5 mana, you play with the top card of your library revealed. And I, at first, was like, this card is trash. That's just like drawing an extra card. And I couldn't even figure it out. But when you cast that card, you flip the next top card over, and then you can cast that. So man, you can get a really cool engine going. It just lands seem to be the speed bump. Panoptic Mirror. Okay, this and the next card are like the only reason that I play this deck sometimes. There's the trolliest combo in the whole game, and it's built into this deck. You get Panoptic Mirror and this bad boy, Time Warp. So turn 5, Panoptic Mirror, go. Next turn, pray I stay alive, go. And then you're holding a Time Warp. During their end step, pause. Exile the Time Warp on the Panoptic Mirror. During your turn, you get infinite turns. And you can do it as much as you want. It's awesome. But yeah, I don't know if that's enough reason to play this deck. Every deck has like a fun, really fast mechanic like that. Day of Dragons, 7 mana. Okay, you cast this, all your creatures go away, and you put 5/5 dragons into play. I haven't gotten to use it yet because it's kind of new, but I'm assuming that the dragons have summoning sickness. Otherwise, it would be like, pff, bam, game. Hydro Surge, target creature gets -5/-0 until end of turn. Man, that is such trash in my eyes. If you got to draw a card, I would play it, and if it costed more mana, I would play it if you drew a card with it, but giving one thing -5/-0, that's so lame. You can play with Curiosities, and there's a couple other little one-cast things to where, I don't know, the only creature you can cast on turn 1 is that dumb Kraken Hatchling, and I've had it happen before with this and the next card, and I don't know. I guess it's really cute to do in like the first turn, to be like, first couple turns to be like, Kraken Hatchling, Curiosity, and then this thing, Distortion Strike, you give it +1/+0, and it's unblockable. So I just hit you with my, what the fuck is it, 1/4 unblockable crab, and now I get to draw a card. And it has a rebound, so you can do it again next turn, but I think that's weak. Dehydration's a little bit of creature control. I passed on it, but I don't know, I might need to put it back in. It just makes target creature not untap during its untap step. So ideally it's already tapped, and ideally it doesn't have any like activated abilities or a sacrifice mechanic or anything like that. You can play with Favorable Winds. It's nice. It gives all your creatures with flying +1/+1. So if you've gotten to some Drake combo or got the Panoptic Mirror out and put like the Talrand's Invocation on it, apparently you can stack multiple things on the mirror and then just click whichever one you want to cast. So go to town. You can play with the Ring in this deck. It's 2 mana to cast, 2 to equip, no, 1 to equip, and then 2, the creature that it's on gains hexproof until end of turn. I wish it just had hexproof, so the whole time you didn't have to have 2 lands untapped and be like ready. And in response to that, I'm gonna give it hexproof so your spell fizzles. Spiketail Hatchling, I think you can play with one of these. It's 1 mana for a 1/1 flying, and you can sack it. And it's like a mana leak for 1, so I don't know. I might throw it in and just experiment with this in like the curve in early game. And then maybe the rest of the game, they'll have 1 land untapped, and it kind of, I don't know, you can view it as like a lame mini Time Warp if you want to be like really positive. Twin Cast, I took this out. 2 mana, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You can do it to your opponent's stuff and do it like as a counterspell alternative and use it in your benefit, or you can try to do that like Talrand's Invocation and use that on it, but that's so late game, you're not going to live that long normally if you're playing a fast deck. Armed with Aether's 3 mana for a sorcery. Creatures you control get, whenever this creature hits an opponent, you can bounce a creature back to your opponent's hand. So I don't know, maybe if you're playing all the small creatures and you're using that weird rebounded thing where your guy's unblockable and you can bounce some stuff back. So many weird ways to play this deck, I don't get it. Call to Mind, 3 mana, just return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. So probably later game, I mean, after turn 4 and you've already used your Drake spell, bounce it back, Drake again. Keep Watch, 3 mana, draw a card for each attacking creature. I don't know, are you supposed to use this on your turn when you're attacking with your crappy little army that's invisible and draws cards and has hexproof if you have all your lands untapped? Or do you do it on your opponent's turn and be like, oh ho, goblin deck attacking me with 12 creatures? I'm gonna draw 12 useless cards. Repulse, you can bounce 1 creature back to their hand and you get to draw a card. There's not a whole lot of stuff in this deck for 3 mana, so maybe I need to bounce this in just so that there's something to do on turn 3 more frequently, and you get to draw a card, so might need to work that in, but I'm having trouble finding all the slots. You You can play with a couple Archaeomancers. It's 4 mana for a 1/2, and when it comes into play, it's another thing where you return the instant or sorcery. So I guess I prefer this over the Call to Mind spell. You pay 1 extra blue and you get a 1/2 creature that's a human wizard. That's fine. And it could trigger your Day of Dragons later. Recurring Insight, 6 mana, draw cards equal to the number of cards in target opponent's hands with rebound. So it seems that if you survive the late game, there's some really cool like draw card mechanics and stuff like that that you can start pulling, but it's just going to get tricky staying alive that long. Gravitational Shift, another creature booster for you, and a creature dwindler for most opposing decks. It's 5 mana, flyers get +2/+0, all creatures with flying, and all creatures without flying get -2/-0. So all the soldier decks and goblins, a lot of them turn into -1s. I wish you gained life, but that's not how it works. And some of your flyers get pumped, so cool trade-off. If you're playing Chandra, watch out, because you just pumped up all the flyers and you're gonna get burned. Spiketail Drake, 5 for a 3/3 flyer, and it gets like a mana leak again in that sacrifice mechanic. So your opponent's probably gonna start playing chump spells, or like, I don't know, I think too far into it and think that they're like reverse bluffing and playing something that they want to cast, thinking that you'll hold your counter. Time Reversal, weird, 5 mana for a sorcery. Every player takes their hand, shuffles their hand into their graveyard, into their library, and then draws 7 cards. What? Shuffles his grand? So you take all your stuff, hand and graveyard, and shuffle it into your library. I don't know if I like that, because they still got creatures. If it was a wipe, I would play with it. Cerulean Sphinx, 6 mana for a 5/5 with flying, and you can pay 1 blue and put it into your library. I hate it. I don't like it at all. But I don't know, maybe that's why I lose so much with this deck, because I'm not playing with those control-y aspect cards. Cast Through Time, instant and sorcery spells, you have rebound. So exile the spell as it resolves. As you cast it from your hand, at the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So super pro. A lot of these cards are so sweet the second time around, and there's so many instant or sorceries. Getting towards the end, Blatant Thievery, 7 mana. For each opponent, you take 1 of their creatures. I don't know, it seems like a really expensive control magic to me. And if you're playing in that funky multiplayer mode, that's cool if you're playing that late game and just grabbing people's monsters, but I don't know. You can play with 3 of these Goliath Sphinx, and this just shows that I might not get this deck. I'm not playing with any of them. It's 7 mana for an 8/7 flyer, and so many decks will terror this, pacifism it, and just deal with it, and I'm way too impatient to cast it on turn 10 with a counter spell in my hand. Time Stretch, another 10 mana card. 10 mana. Target player takes 2 extra turns after this one, so I don't know. If you can survive that long, more power to you. And if you draw this in your first 7 cards, man, you're gonna be pissed. And I think that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. PhoneCats.